During the advent of the paranormal division in Nazi Germany, there was a high interest in not just paranormal activity, but metaphysical principles. And this is why you see Madame Blavatsky, Aleister Crowley, McGregor Mathers, Jack Parsons, who's a JPL or Jet Propulsion's laboratory. All these people are in the same nucleus, trafficking the same kind of knowledge that they're gleaning from ancient Indian or ancient Persian works, ancient cultures, from Kemet all the way into Samaria. So they're gleaming all this knowledge, and they're working with this agenda to gain control over everyone, to actually have total world rulership. Okay? So one of those aspects of total world rulerships in that technology is something that I call the dream machine. And what it is the simple knowledge that the frequency that most of your ideas broadcast down, and that most of your thoughts, which are invisible, go down, are actually in the different wavelengths that you cannot generally see with your physical eye, but you're perceptive of in some way or another. And these wavelengths I'm talking about is like gamma and infrared, right? And so these are out of your visual spectrum, like radio frequencies. Like when you play your radio, you don't see those waves going through the air, but they're there, right? So this automatically means just because you can't see it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Like there's this huge thing that, there's this huge denial when a person can't see something, so they can't venture out to realize that there's a lot of things that they can't see. So what happens is the creation of all this Wi-Fi and all these radio frequencies and all these broadcasting signals that broadcast 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, like the movie They Live. These frequencies that basically keep a person in anxiety, keep a person in fear, etc. Because even if you take a very high frequency that's still audible and you play it to a person, what you watch is all their muscles begin to tense up, because the body actually doesn't like those frequencies, no matter how high that frequency is. If it's not rhythmic and if it's not harmonic, if it's not an octave, the body has a reflection when it actually hears those things. And now what's happened is because we're not really paying attention to our body, we're no longer sensitive to what our body is telling us and saying to us. We don't even feel it anymore. It's like a person who goes on a fast for like 12 days and then after that tries to drink a soda and watches how their mouth just burns like they've just drunk some fire. And someone who's maybe been a vegetarian for 10 years and then goes takes a bite of meat and then catches a disease and starts, breaking all out in the face, etc. And it's just because once you stop doing something that is harmful for you, then your body starts to readjust. But if you start to do that all over again, then there's a reaction, right? There's a side effect. So what I'm saying is that the big game here is to get you to react. And the reason is because when you react, you send an emotional signature. So if you're upset, if you're angry, you immediately send out this emotional signature from your body. And just like we eat food, then the entities that are around, which Don Juan called flyers, they eat that. And if you think that that's just so far out, then why don't you start realizing for one moment that actually the entire reality that you're in, whether you want to see it or not, Alice, is predatory. Meaning that this eating all the time, hunting animals, just consuming other organisms, consuming energy, etc., just on a subconscious level creates what we call a predator. So we're not blaming anyone for this. We're just saying things as they really are, right? So in this predatory reality, what you find is you find that there's this need for everything to actually have energy. But the interesting thing is that when things need energy that are out of your visual spectrum, remember, things that are out of your visual spectrum, here's another misconception. A lot of people think that things that are out of their visual spectrum are only the things high on the visual spectrum. And that's not true. There are things very low on the visual spectrum, like that are lower wavelengths that you can't see either. Okay, and this is why in the darkroom meditation, you actually begin to see these subsonic or far infrared kind of entities moving around, because when you don't have light, your eye, or you don't have as much light as you have in the daytime or whatever, your eyes, for a long time, your eyes are forced to adjust, right? And they adjust more into those infrared frequencies, and then you can start seeing things that you couldn't see when the lights were on all the time, and then causing your consciousness to just only see what's in that particular spectrum. So the range of perceptions then, or the range of what's on that nanometer scale, are all energy that can be consumed. And many things that you can't see with your eye, that's the emissions that we give off, which you can't see, are food for them. It's important for you to understand this, because this becomes the culprit to why there is so much confusion amongst people, and why it seems like they're often urged to naturally go into conflict with others, even the ones that have been the most instrumental at assisting them to get to where they are now. So the thing is that the more that we get into one direction of our consciousness, it always equals the same thing, an extreme exhaustion of energy, versus one level is extreme conservation. So then you can see why the reality always wants to enlist an emotional reaction from you, because there's all these things around, whether they're inorganic or organic, vying for you to make an emotional expression so that it can get its food. So even further, if we want to keep going on with this, we realize that, again, the entire reality is predatory. Because if you notice how a bird is not going to sit there and wait for it to decide when you walk by, I wonder if it's a good human. Or another animal walks by, I wonder if it's a good animal. It immediately goes into the action of fear and then runs off and at least gets to a safe area before it looks back and sees, hey, what was that? Because 9 times out of 10, whatever is coming by for that little bird is probably going to either try to consume that bird or hurt that bird in some way or another. That's the bird's experience. So the same thing with many other organisms that are in this reality is that they're very aware of the predatory nature in this reality. So their first reaction is actually in the inclination of fear. And what I say is that all that does is it pushes the pendulum in a certain direction. And that direction is naturally decaying our consciousness. It's naturally decaying our body, naturally decaying who we are. So it's not just blaming the people around you that are actually engaged in that. It's realizing that you're actually in an entire reality that is designed that way. And then when you know that, then you can stop reacting to all the things, or start the process of not reacting to all the things that are happening around you constantly to get some of this energy. So remember, the beauty of human beings is that we're all carrying this energy. So when we're talking about the wavelengths, there's not really any variations outside of that. So what that means is that it's not that, oh, rich people give off a better energy or poor people give off a better energy. It doesn't matter your status in the reality to determine what quality of energy you're giving off. It only requires that you actually react. So this says a lot to people who may feel like that, hey, well, you know, I don't know why I'm experiencing anything. Well, why wouldn't you be is the biggest question. So like, I don't know why I'm experiencing anything. Why would they want to have my energy? I'm not doing anything. Well, it's all the same energy. So it's important to realize that.